All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a seriously chilling sequence of events from The Secret of Floor 13. We're going to break down exactly how this story takes a totally ordinary everyday setting and just warps it into an absolute nightmare. Honestly, it's a look at what happens when architecture itself kind of turns against us. So, before we really get into the timeline here, I want you to think about your own experiences for a second. Have you ever taken an elevator completely alone, late at night, in a totally empty building? You know that feeling, right? There's this very specific, kind of claustrophobic isolation that happens in that perfectly quiet, enclosed metal box. Just the hum of the machinery, those harsh fluorescent lights. You are literally cut off from the rest of the world, just hovering between floors. And it's that exact universally understood vulnerability that this text uses to pull us instantly into Mia's story.
The narrative actually establishes a pretty mundane tempo right off the bat. We trace Mia's evening, and she's just working late in an office building. It's a routine, honestly kind of boring occurrence that a lot of us are super familiar with. The text lulls us into this very ordinary rhythm of late-night office work right up until a very specific timestamp. It is exactly 1:07 a.m. Take a second to really feel the quiet isolation of that time. At 1:07 a.m., she packs up and enters the elevator alone. Putting that precise time in there anchors the story in reality, which makes the terrifying departure from reality that's about to hit feel way more jarring.
Now, what's truly wild here is the sheer impossibility of the anomaly we're presented with. Mia simply presses the button for floor 2, just as standard short trip down. But instead of floor 2, the elevator jolts to a halt at floor 13. And here is the terrifying architectural paradox clearly stated in our source. There is no floor 13 in this building. It physically does not exist. The story immediately shifts from, late night fatigue to just completely impossible geometry. So as those metal doors slowly slide open, the text just strips away any remaining sense of a modern office building. Instead of a standard lobby, this dark hallway appears. The visual isolation is profound here. We've got flickering lights casting these really erratic shadows, and there, standing at the absolute end of this impossible corridor, is a little girl. But, and this is the kicker, it's the physical detail provided in the source that really cranks up the dread. Her head is tilted unnaturally. It's that single, deeply unsettling physical wrongness that signals to Mia, and to us, of course, that whatever is waiting out there in the dark is absolutely not human. And then the figure speaks. The text explicitly tells us that she whispered, "You're not supposed to see this floor." Just let that supernatural warning hang in the air for a second. It's not a screaming threat of violence, right? It's a quiet, horrific statement of fact. Mia has breached a boundary. She stumbled into this pocket of reality that was intentionally sealed away. Well, the reaction is immediate and totally visceral. Panic sets in, and Mia just slams that close button. The door is finally shut, cutting off that dark hallway, but the elevator doesn't just descend nicely. It drops violently. Gravity snaps back into place, the doors rip open at the bottom, and she literally bolts into the night, physically shaking from the whole encounter. The pacing of the text accelerates so drastically here, perfectly mirroring her desperate, frantic escape. But the story doesn't just end there in the dark. It shifts to the morning after. The sun is up, the world feels normal again, and Mia shifts into the sort of investigative mode. She's trying to rationalize the impossible. So she goes to the old security guard working at the building to ask him directly about floor 13. She's desperately looking for a logical explanation. Maybe a quirk in the building's wiring, literally anything to dismiss the nightmare from the night before. But the source text notes a very distinct physical reaction from the old guard. He turns entirely pale. 20. This single number carries the entire weight of the building's tragedy. Before the guard even finishes his sentence, this exact span of time bridges the gap between Mia's terrifying night and the hidden lore of the building itself. So the absolutely crucial point is revealed right here. The pale security guard connects Mia's impossible encounter directly to a historic, fatal event. He tells her a little girl died there in a fire 20 years ago. And suddenly, the flickering lights, the dark hallway, the missing floor, it all just snaps into focus. Floor 13 wasn't just left off the architectural blueprints by accident. No, it was the site of a horrific tragedy 2 decades prior, a space entirely burned out and just sealed away from the rest of the functioning building. Upon hearing this, the text tells us that Mia nervously laughed, And honestly, it's that classic human reaction, right? Trying to brush off something that's just way too heavy to process. She's standing there in the broad daylight, talking to a real person. She thinks the nightmare is safely contained in the past, locked behind the closed doors of a ghost floor. But we really have to ask, was she truly safe just because she made it back down to the ground floor? Well, her nervous laughter is abruptly cut off. Her phone buzzes. It's a completely mundane, everyday sound, but when she looks at the screen, there is a brand new, totally unprompted photo sitting right there in her camera roll. The story brilliantly weaponizes a device we all carry around every single day, turning a symbol of everyday connection into a vehicle for absolute dread.
Think about the impossible perspective of this photograph. It was taken from inside the elevator. Mia's standing there facing forward, but right behind her, in the totally confined space of that elevator car, the little girl is smiling. This completely shatters everything Mia thought she knew about her escape, because the entity didn't stay on the 13th floor. When those doors shut and the elevator dropped violently, she was already inside the box with her.
The source material wraps up our explainer with a seriously chilling reminder of the boundaries we really aren't meant to cross. So the next time you find yourself alone in an elevator late at night, just hovering between floors, maybe look a little closer at those buttons. What forgotten spaces were sealed away, and what in the world might be waiting for you if you accidentally stumble into them?